Kshaviryajatraha Sthirairangai Sushtuvanam Sastanubihi Yashema Devahitayadayuhu Swasti na Indro Vruddhashavaha Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedaha Swasti nastarsho arishtanemihi Swasti no brahaspatir dadatu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Revision time. Who wants to revise? And he's the first one to raise hand.
Hey, Tubia. Tubia.
Tobia.
Oh,
You want to go first?
oh well. So
Tobias
yeah,
still
We
waiting.
agreed yesterday you were first.
I was first.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
Yeah, we agreed.
We all agreed.
All right.
Oh, it was a private agreement during the
Maybe it was Pemple. Well, it doesn't matter. I would do it the other way around, like emotionally.
Okay, perfect.
I don't do it like analytic and rational.
Yes.
More emotional.
Yes, wonderful.
I was touched by your conclusion that all which is like the body, the cells, the atoms, particles, and all this is like an expression of intelligence. So we are like an example for this intelligence, like Surya did in the meditation today. Like we kind of, he just linked it to your teaching yesterday, and I was touched by this. It was so obvious that there's only intelligence. So this really touched me. This intelligence and this all, it's linked to all knowledge and all power, and this is like what Ishvara is by nature. And it's all dependent on consciousness. So consciousness is a like foundation. All knowledge, all power, like the characteristics of Ishvara is like an expression of this consciousness, and we are like that.
The outcome.
The outcome. So this is basically, that was my emotional link to the teaching yesterday. What I really took. It took me like, and moved me. Well, yeah. So, and the rest are details.
But nice. Nice to hear what moves you. You know, I think it was a very nice. Mostly people tell me after my class that yeah, it was so well explained and things like that. Yesterday after the class, evening class, Tobias said it really moved me and I had tears in my eyes. And that's beautiful feedback, really. It's a nice feedback where it's not just something which is just cognitive, it's something that you're making the person understand something so much bigger than just the rational mind which is processing, right? I mean, Yes, you are using the mind, but what you are showing is something enormously big. And that subtlety and how it moves you, the truth moves you so deeply and so fundamentally. And that was beautiful. I loved it. I liked it very much.
Oh, that's it's just before I understood, you have to understand stuff intellectually.
Yes.
And what I actually realized from this all intelligence is that since it's only Ishwar sitting here, then the only thing to do is the mind has to learn this now by practice. The practice is what's going to clean everything so that it becomes so clear that everything's okay.
Exactly.
Because
all is Ishvara, and you need Ishvara's help, like we saw. The whole thing is Ishvara. The teaching is from Ishvara. The universe is Ishvara, as Surya showed yesterday in that beautiful Dakshinamurti. Right? And the struggling one, is also within Ishvara. You don't know the reality. You need the teaching. That is also within Ishvara. And you know, all the practices that, your thought processes, your mind, it's all because of not knowing this reality. It's all convoluted, distorted. You need to bring it in line with Ishvara, the whole laws of Ishvara, right? And seeing the enormity of Ishvara and just resolve all your smallness, your confusions, your emotions, the leftovers which are become either sadness or resentment, and all that needs to resolve. You have to get well, right? And then it's just clear that the vision of Ishvara doesn't lose sight. Right? So that oneness, exactly. So it's very nice that please don't shy away. Vedanta is not meant to be used as for you to kind of, just artificially unconsciousness. Really it doesn't work. So it's wonderful. In order for the whole vision, you to become this vision, is that, there is Ishvara at every level. Like an eagle, the broad thing is known and every detail is, at every level is absolutely clear. That is called clarity. Yeah. Wonderful comment. Thanks, Sterling. Amba.
It was important to hear that some concepts you told, like gunas, are only for our self-growth and not for to judge others. That was important for me.
Exactly. And Amba, one more thing, it's even not meant for you to judge yourself, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so for example, you're feeling sleepy. You don't need to say, I'm in tamasic mode. It's ridiculous, right? I mean, just say you're feeling sleepy, right? Because please understand this, it's so critical. These things, if you don't understand, the mind is too gross to understand these to capture these subtle realities, right? Suppose somebody is traveling a lot around the world. You would call that person sattvic, rajasic or tamasic? Stefan. You've fallen into the or you're making fun of people. One of the two. Okay. Right? The thing is, immediate conclusion is, oh, this person is so rajasic, the person is traveling around the world. Hey, what the person is traveling around the world makes the person sattvic, rajasic or tamasic. Swamiji was traveling around the world because he wanted to share this vision to as many people as possible. Can you call him rajasic? The whole purpose, he traveled around the globe 27 hours. Is he rajasic? Who said that? No, I mean to say.
I was to say, well, I think nobody has any courage to actually use these words anymore,
Right? So that means you can't, you can travel. That shows your love for knowledge. That shows your commitment to show the truth to people. How are you going to label this person rajasic, right? The other person travels around the world to make a multi-million-dollar business. Is this person rajasic? Well, even that depends. Please understand that. right? Because he could be making a lot of money and then ultimately also, sharing his wealth with the humanity. Even that doesn't make him rajasic, right? You have so many examples people give of Warren Buffett, and I mean, we don't know the motivation. See, provided they had the nice motivation, we don't know, right? In fact, nobody knows the motivation of anybody else, right? So therefore, you only know your own motivations. But suppose that person really had the benefit of others in mind. The person is a multi-millionaire traveling around the world. The person is still suffering. And the other person who's traveling around the world and is only interested in increasing their profit, we don't know the motivation. That could be rajasic. And the other person could be traveling around the world to figure out a terrorist plan, and that person could be tamasic. So traveling around the world is not an indicator of the person being sattvic, rajasic or tamasic. So when you are traveling, don't say right now I'm not in sattvic mode, I'm in a rajasic mode. I mean, it's ridiculous. Even for your own self, don't judge things like this. Because sattva, rajas and tamas is actually talking about very subtle things like what are your motivations, right? Where are you coming from, right? What do you understand about life? What are your goals? So that means it's far more subtle than just, oh, person is active, so the person is, now let's label the person rajasic.
And even one person can have different modes.
But even those modes, that's what I'm saying, it's nothing to do with modes. It's not like today, right now I'm in a sattvic mode, and then I'm going to be in rajasic mode, and now I'm sleepy, so I'm in tamasic mode. You see what I mean? It is all to do with your motivations, and so it can be used in that on one hand the person can be very generous, and on the other hand the person can be jealous. That way you can say it. But don't say it in, oh, right now I'm in rajasic mode. It's not needed. It's not talking, it's about gunas, it's not about some states, what you're doing. It's the very word guna itself indicates not actions but what? Qualities. And qualities are subtle. Actions are apparent, qualities are subtle.
That's the reason why you cannot see it.
Exactly, that's why you cannot see.
Yeah, but in Ayurveda it is meant to see these qualities to, you can change your life if you want to go for more health. So
Yes.
if you have a traveling profession, it is mostly that it is, Rajas is high.
Okay,
So you can change or think, is it needed that I have to travel so much? Or can I travel in a longer time so it is more calming? Or what else? No? So, or can I eat food what is more balancing this part of my job? So this is how I have learned that this
so that means, please understand that particular, so for example, Ayurveda uses this word, Vedanta uses it differently, right? For your growth, because the whole thing is growth. The Ayurveda, as she asked, uses within a different model, right? And it has a different connotation. So this is all the more reason why you cannot just use it like generally. It's within that system to show something and in order to help you with that. So when you use it in Ayurveda to say something else, it's specific.
Yeah, but for me it is the same in that way that it is also for growth, because I take responsibility for my life to look what can I change to go better to.
It's okay, there are some habits which you are right, which can be, little. But the thing is, people, just as I give you an example, traveling a lot doesn't make you rajasic according to Vedanta, because the motivation can be sharing the knowledge. So please don't, yes, with reference to body activities, yes, but not with reference to the motivations, right?
Yeah, this is a part of the whole.
Yeah. And the other thing which I also wanted to say is, even Tattva Bodha, in Vedanta uses this sattva, rajas and tamas model slightly differently. Right? So that means within the Prakriti itself there is what? Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. Has anybody studied Tattva Bodha? Then from the, so the 5 elements are divided into what? Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. And from the Sattva Amsha of the 5 elements are born what? Your Jnanendriya and the mind. From the Rajas Amsha are born your body because it's active. And from the Tamas Amsha is born your physical body. So that means there are different definitions for different models. Right? They use the terms, but they define those terms and they use it for that purpose. So why is sattvic, how do elements have sattva? Because from the elements, the capacity, the organs of knowing are born. You see what I mean? It's a kind of a correlation. Don't start imagining that, oh, this Akasha and they have qualities of Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. You see what I mean? So these are, as I keep telling you, these are technical terms, right? In Bhagavad Gita, it is used as the motivations, which is your growth. In Tattva Bodha, it is showing how that the body has some capacity to know, which comes from sattva. It has capacity to act, which comes from rajasamsha of the 5 elements, and there is a grossness in the body which comes from tamas. Right? So that means these models are meant to kind of make you see and account for some differences. Right? So now how are you going to use this term? Are you going to use it the Gita way, or Tattva Bodha way, or Ayurveda way? Which way? So you have to use it appropriately there and define it. You see what I mean? And just don't start using it just kind of as some kind of oh yeah, I'm tamas. What is this?
It's tamas.
Yeah, it's because it really, absolutely, it totally, you make something which is so subtle, so beautiful into something so gross, really. You use it so loosely to judge yourself and judge others. Thank you, Amba. I'm so happy you caught this point because it's a very important point. Okay. Anything else? Andre, you have anything else to say?
Yeah, I would like to go to the 3rd Mundaka, section 1.
Okay.
Mantra 1, and
Okay.
on the 2 birds.
Oh, okay. Yeah, very good. Okay, say that because I'm still elaborate. Very good. What do you have to tell me?
Alright, so on the analogy of the 2 birds,
Yes.
the analogy starts by saying that both birds are born of the same consciousness. Just like 2 waves in the ocean are of the same water. So, bird 1, let's talk about it. Bird 1 understands that there is only water, or water alone is. And that all other waves, that is birds, even though they appear differently, seemingly differently, they are all of the same water. Hence, bird 1 relaxes, knowing that all is water. Therefore, it has no motivation to engage in karma. It is already accomplished. It is free, knowing that it is off water already.
Would everybody agree with that? No. Most of the people. So it's good to listen to why. Okay. Yeah,
So
please.
yeah, I wanted to say that there is no reference to engaging in karma. So somebody who understands the nature of I will not avoid doing karma, but the attitude towards karma.
Yes. Yes, I agree. Yeah.
Very good. Excellent. See, please begin to understand these subtleties. Yeah? Because otherwise what happens is that, you know, the person who's the least doing karma could be so lazy, but you think, oh, he has achieved so much, and that's why he's now sitting in a mountain and sitting quietly. So these kind of mental images that we make, they actually don't give us accurate information. So one has to actually really break them, because otherwise it keeps you in your own the framework, and it doesn't make you see something bigger. Very good, Veer. Excellent.
Can you repeat that? So, I was trying to say that even though one has realized the nature of who I am, will not avoid doing karma. It's not about avoiding, it's about the attitude towards doing karma. So understanding that I am not the doer, but the karma is being done through me, which I am means.
Excellent. Excellent. Good. When you answer like that, I'm happy, because I see that you catch the subtleties of what I'm trying to convey. Thank you.
Was that what you explained yesterday, that even the wise is born with a certain karma? I don't remember the name.
Prarabdha karma.
Is it that? Is it about that? That you're born with that karma?
See, one thing you have to recognize is, what did we see about a person? Is it just that you are living out your karma? What is the distinguishing factor of a human being? Tell me. Free will. So we are not here to, we are not cows, we are not lions who are just living out our karma, right? So the distinguishing factor about a human being is one's free will. So that means, don't think that after the knowledge has taken place, now the wise person says, oh, anyway, I know everything is me, so what's there to do? That's a very silly way to think, right? I mean, if you're really wise, you don't have this kind of attitudes. What you do is exactly what Vio is saying, that yes, you do have some karma, and at the same time you also have free will. And enjoy using this free will. And you can have goals. Which are the goals now? Let me explain this knowledge to people. Let me give clarity to people. These are newly found goals. And that doesn't make the person not wise. Because this is, where is it taking place, is something which is very clear. Right? The body and mind will remain exactly as it was. It's not going to change as a result of action. As a result of knowledge. So that means, but what you understand changes. So therefore, now you make use of this body and mind. You have freedom, but you engage intelligently and to see, hey, where can I make those strategic interventions which are very necessary? So it's not like you're only living out your prarabdha karma and you're that till the body is died. You're also using your free will. Why not? This is a specific body and mind that is given to use, given for your use. Use it well, all the more. Right? The free will of the wise person is actually kind of a little bit aligned to Ishvara's order, where Ishvara actually gets so many things done through you.
And it's also, you can engage also in artha and kama, that's not a problem. You can have karmas to work towards your, let's say, pleasure or your security, that doesn't exclude.
Exactly. Very good. If you understand this, you really understand what really Vedanta is talking about. Otherwise, we are all working within our own framework of what we think is spiritual, what we think is a wise person, what we think, and we try to fit what you're, most of the time it happens that you already come from a certain framework and you try to fit what the teacher is saying within your framework. But actually, if you had the right framework, you would be the wise person. So that means you're trying to fit the truth in a wrong framework, which you'll never get that. Do you understand that? So that means you really have to, you have to start to break your own framework slowly, slowly, slowly. Rudra said very nicely, he says, but actually nobody can totally break the framework. In the beginning, you are stuck with what you think. You can't just totally erase it, right? And that's true. It's absolutely true. But while you're listening, your commitment is to try to see, right? Your things will interfere. It's okay. But your commitment is to try to see what this other person is saying, and your framework will raise questions, and you can't ignore those questions. You have to come back to your questions and see what the teacher is saying is making more sense, or what you have come up with is making more sense. And if you find that the teacher is making more sense, you have to give up your framework for that given thing. Otherwise, what happens? You continue to try to fit in some things in your own framework. Slowly, slowly, you have to give up your own ideas. Slowly, slowly. It can't be done overnight. By this reflection, you have to sit with the knowledge, and you have to sit with your own ideas that you have, pre-existing ideas, and you have to see what the teacher is trying to say and see what makes more sense. Only when you see that what teacher makes more sense, your ideas will drop. Otherwise, I can be shouting till the end, but you will still hold on to your ideas if you don't stay with your ideas and reflect. The job of reflection is yours, right? You can't delete your ideas, right? You have to stay with, you have to at some point reconcile your ideas and what is being taught, what makes more sense. And suppose you still have a doubt, you can ask. But ask in your own words, from your own understanding of where you are stuck. Don't just blindly quote other people and say, now you tell me what this means. That shows laziness here. Because if you have heard somebody, it's your responsibility to reflect. It's not my responsibility to reflect on what you have heard. Right? And it's your responsibility to reconcile. And if in that reconciliation with your own reasoning you are stuck, then yes, you cannot come to me, but phrase the questions from your own confusion. Don't phrase the questions, this one is saying this and you're saying this, so now you explain to me. This is a very dull mind. You just want to give somebody else the whole job of first trying to understand what somebody else is saying, and then throwing it and now said you analyze. Hey, you analyze, it's your responsibility. Right? So therefore, ask questions from your confusion. Don't ask questions from somebody else said this and you are saying this, so now you tell me. Right?
About free will, there's I'm still not sure, because there's this view, let's say, and I'm not sure if it's correct or not, that because everything is kind of cause-effect, so from the beginning there's a cause which leads to an effect, and therefore everything is in a way predetermined, because every thought we get is an effect of a previous action, every feeling we get is an effect of a previous, let's say, action. So it's like, actually, where is the free will? And there's this thought that, yes, you say free will during the teaching, but actually in the end you realize there is no free will. Everything is just flowing, everything is each or something like this.
Okay, does it make sense to you all? No. Why not?
Because without free will,
Yeah, go ahead. No, I'm just trying.
okay, without free will there
Yes.
would be no karma. Without free will there would be no karma.
Excellent. Then give further. What would happen, Carl? It's correct.
And otherwise, we would not act in a certain way, alignment to Dharma and so on, if there would be not a free will. And if we go further on, we would say all is Ishvara, and Ishvara is then a criminal because all is coming from him. It's our free will to align to Dharma or not to align to Dharma. What you mean is at the end, I heard it in a similar way, it's all destiny. But it means consciousness is not acting. So maybe you mean this, that consciousness never has done anything.
Also in this way, because if consciousness is not a doer, then it has never done anything. That what is happening is all kind of Ishvara, is all just kind of naturally happening, has nothing to do with me, let's say, as consciousness, and it's like, again, automatic, you know, that's the thing. So,
yeah, but we have to start at the point Neema is always pointing out where we are now. And now we understand us as body and mind, and with a free will to do things in this way or to do things in another way. And this is the starting point, and there is the free will, and with every action we are causing karma.
right, this is the starting point, but is that the ending point? This is the question.
What does it mean?
No, she's saying it's the starting point, and then with knowing, recognizing Brahman, you see that you are not the doer. But this is not where we are now.
Tobias.
Yeah, and you can break it down to a simple decision. For example, what would you like to eat for lunch? Huh? So it's super simple.
It is super simple, exactly.
Really, just break it down, because otherwise you're confusing yourself. You know, we start from the dualistic point, even if we know it's just a provisional concept. You know, but you can't do the other way around, just to pretend to be consciousness, and therefore you just say there's no creation, no choice, and all this stuff, you know. And I understand your point, but you're here because of the free will, you know. You're here because you choose to be here. You've chosen to be here. So, I mean, you break it down to a simple thing. So it's not the same, you know, if you have pasta or if you have like a salad for lunch.
Well, on one yes, on the other hand, you could say that whatever I choose is based on desire, which has already been there before. This is kind of thing.
Yeah, but do you have preferences? Do you like something special?
Well, that's the thing. So the preference.
Yeah.
Therefore, the preference determines my choice, and therefore I don't have free will. You know, this is kind of the argument.
No.
But I really understand his argument, because I think it's a subtle thing, because really, if you continue, where do your preference come from? What are the causes for your preferences? For example, your environment, your parents, so there are some reasons for the preferences, and you could go on. So if you break it down and go further, you really could ask the question, where do this all come from, and what specific is about free will? So I think free will is really misunderstanding that everything is possible for everybody, which I think if you would take it in this way, it wouldn't be the right association, because there are these causes. But what I would say, within a certain range, then you have the choice to do this or that. So I would call it choice, the possibility of having a choice, not the choice of everything, because you do have these causes which are the preferences and which puts you in a certain environment, and you are not just here without all these things, causes influencing you, but within this setting you do have choices different from a cow, for example. You then may not choose Indian food if you've never heard of it, but you may choose between pasta and tomatoes. But this is a certain range of choice you have, and you can act out, which is difficult if you associate free will with everything is possible for every person.
Another simple way to put it is this: everything is an effect. No? You understand that, right? So what we first able to do is to be free from the effect. Presently we are thinking we're the effect, and we are doing everything with the effect. And what you're trying to do is to realize that you're not the effect, that you're something else. That's not changing. That's all.
Mic drop.
Mistake the fact that you know, we identify. I'm sterling and I'm a really great guy, right? And I believe that. The free will is to realize that's not quite true. That's not true. You're just unchanging. You believe in that you're changing. You believe in that you're responding.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of get that it can look like free will but if you kind of look further, you kind of expand your view from where did that idea of the choice come from, you know? So to play the devil's advocate a bit, so you could sort of say, aha, that idea came from a different idea that came from a different action. So it's always an effect of a cause, you know? And like, so it's kind of like, where is there me choosing? If there's always a cause, that cause and effect, many causes, many effects.
It's only one cause. It's only one cause. Everything else is just effect.
That's right. Yeah. And so where's the free will then?
The free will is to choose. The free will is to be in the effect and play in the effect and not realizing that there's a cause and that you are the cause. I am.
So then that means free will is kind of an illusion. Because it's
you
kind
can say
of...
that way, but it's pretty real. If I punch in the head, you will feel it.
That's right, but this punching and me feeling is all an effect of a certain cause. Where's the free will in that? You see, it's like, it's very weird. Like myself, I can sort of, I understand your argument, that's how I argue myself, but then I'm like, yeah, but if you look further, it's another cause leading to another effect, another cause, another effect. So maybe, so the way I kind of understand is that we sort of say there's free will just so that we can do something, kind of move forward. But in the end, there is no free will. There's maybe consciousness, and there's a certain kind of mechanism or whatever, certain order, and that's it. So that's my
doubt. But even saying that there's no free will and there's only consciousness, you're denying the beauty of this intelligence.
No. The intelligence is the law, it's the order. There's consciousness, and there's an order which is just functioning automatically within the consciousness, and the consciousness is observing. So this is the point of view which I'm not sure how to...
Consciousness is not observing.
Well, it is there, witnessing whatever, or if it's
No,
not
no,
observing...
please, this witnessing and all, please be very careful, you know, it's not some sitting here and witnessing you all, right? So please understand, we are not talking about, this is why what it is a drishyam and it is a chakshu. A chakshu means what? It's not sitting and observing you. There is no action on part of consciousness, right?
There is no action.
Yeah.
And so, but actions happen, so that means it's just an automatic order?
No.
This
Okay.
is my doubt.
Yeah, that's your doubt. Okay, wonderful. Anybody else? Anna, you had something to say?
Your today's decision made of many decisions you made before. So your argumentation seems like you were expecting, other decisions before very automatically, but they are not. So if you see the countless flow, the beginningless circle of creation, so maybe you have uncountable lives you have already undertaken. So you have made many decisions which now, of course, form your decisions now, your free will, how you use it, but you have always the possibility to get out, because within Ishvara, possibility is given to choose. You can choose your pattern, you can choose out of your experiences, but you can also tap other informations, you can ask other beings. You have all possibilities given to use your free will, even being conditioned through thousands and thousands of lives you have behind. So you can slightly change, you can also work on your free will. You can slightly change your free will in another direction, not overnight, but you can slowly make your decisions wiser. Not in one decision, but in many decisions.
And we had different examples where somebody changed through one idea. For example, the thief, it gets clear that his family don't take his karma, so he decided to change at the moment.
Well, where did that decision come from? That's the thing. That the input was there, and then that input caused a decision based on within this kind of automatic system. You know what I'm saying? It's like wherever you go, you could always say, it was all automatic,
No, what Anna makes clear that there are in between moments that everybody has from time where you see clear what is Dharma or what is Adharma. Yeah? This is inbuilt in our system.
Yeah.
His question is why does somebody take the chance and why does
Yeah.
somebody doesn't?
Okay, I think it's just enough because it's just like ongoing. And first of all, yeah, go ahead.
I would like to take a simple example.
Yes.
If you are playing cards all together, you know some playing cards. You get a set of cards. This can be called your karma. The circumstances where you are born, and so on and so on. This is the result of the earlier actions, like Anna is saying. So, one has no good cards and he's saying, oh, I don't like it at all, I don't want to play, I don't want to live my life. The other one has cards maybe the same and saying, oh, let's see what I can do. This is freedom. Yeah, and the cards are the result
See,
of early
please don't
actions.
try to enter, this actually leads to taking not responsibility for who you are. These, these intellectual arguments, somehow make you feel, the murderer can say, I murdered because, Ishvara is making me murder. You go along with this example, you'll end up in disaster, I tell you. Okay.
But could it be that we're looking from two different perspectives? So if I'm looking from from I am, there is no free will, there is no attributes, there is no change, there is no karma, no free will, no nothing. But furthermore, if you look from the perspective of this person who
wants to get there.
Exactly, you have some kind of free will.
And the moment you see the difference, the moment you see that, you discriminate it.
And the range you're able to act in is different. Therefore, we do the karma yoga stuff, because you enlarge your possibilities.
Absolutely. Excellent. Excellent. This is so nice. I'm going to kind of talk about it. Very good. Excellent point.
I just think that sometimes when we look back at our past, then we often are told to say, we're told to kind of look at it as there was no other way we could have acted. So maybe that kind of, in my mind, that tells me that, yeah, maybe supports teamwork point is small,
It's really interesting to me to listen to everyone trying to intellectualize this, but actually, for me, it's much simpler if I just think about from my perspective of what I used to be like that. In the past, I couldn't have done any other way because my unconscious, the causes, the effects, and I can see it very, very clearly. The way I was raised as a child, blah, 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 papers read, blah, 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 Vedanta, Simple. But I have this band on my wrist and I always look at it every day. And it's a prayer, which I think, for me, that is the free will. It says, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. So that's the stuff that's come in the past, which is still here now. I still have to deal with it. But grant me the courage to accept the things I can't change. So there's certain things that are out of karma, for example, which I can't change. But I want to know the wisdom to know the difference. And that's the free will.
Excellent. Excellent. Swamiji used to really make us do this prayer, right? Give me what? Grant
the serenity to accept
what I
gracefully
cannot
what I
change,
cannot change.
and let me take the initiative to change what I can, and let me have the wisdom to know the difference between what I can change and what I cannot change. Beautiful. Human being, not cow, right? So now, why it seems as though the free will, and I don't want to spend too much time because you need to reflect on it. I'll just give you a few examples, right? And then you think about it, because otherwise it is no end. So now, suppose there is a cause and effect relationship which is here, and you are seeing yourself from here. right? You are here because there are, I mean, in fact, there are cycles and cycles and cycles of creation, and you are at this point. And who you are is not entirely something that you have decided. So you have to be clear about what we mean by free will. So you have to define it well. Free will doesn't mean that I am given the capacity to sit and construct my body, that I am given the capacity to design my own mind. That's not definition of free will, right? This is following certain laws, right? So that means this body is given to me, even if I want it to be 5 kilos less, I'm born and with a certain tendency, and that's okay, right? And therefore, suppose this is something which is little bit governed by here, right? Now, here you are given not just, okay, now these past causes, so now what? Some things from the past are going to show up, but right now you have to choose your response. What is going to happen here is not predetermined. Based on the choices that you make, there are several possibilities. Depending upon the choices that you collapse, this is what is going to happen here. Because this is an outcome of so many small things and so many different choices that you make along with past causes. So that means, simple example of you have a choice between what, eating salad or a very heavy lunch, and there will be an effect. And what is the effect? If you eat salad, you will feel light. If you eat a huge lunch, you will be feeling heavy. It's just as simple as that, right? You are constantly making choices. You can't say, oh, Ishvara made me make the choice that today I want to eat salad. You would become machine, right? So therefore, this is something that you need to understand. Yes, who you are today is not, free will doesn't mean you can choose anything that you want. If you really had free will, then you would be consciousness yesterday. I mean, you would know the knowledge yesterday. So that means it's governed by certain laws, but it doesn't mean that only the laws are governing you and you're just sitting duck to the laws, right? The free will means that the choices that you make have consequences. And this is why in this human life, the choices becomes a very critical thing. You can decide where you are going to end up. Either you can end up as a person who knows the reality, or you can end up as somebody who's a criminal. Just the faculty of choices. Yes, you are governed by the past, but you can totally change the trajectory of your life. Like the example that was given by what? This Valmiki, right? So when Narada told him that these are the consequences, he could have just said, shut up, and gone home and still, but the fact that he thought about it made him change completely as a person. You're coming here because you find yourself helpless. The past causes are completely in your unconscious. In this life, also probably coming from the previous lives. And you're caught here, you're unable to come out. So that's why, what is a human thing? You go and see a psychologist. Why? Because you want yourself out of this mess. Right? So then psychologist doesn't work. You decide to stop it and you go to God knows X. What? Kabbalah. Kabbalah. So now I'll learn new things. Kabbalah. Right? Then Kabbalah, you understand it is not working. Let's go to some Neo-Vedanta now. Right? Neo-Vedanta also single consciousness, but it actually doesn't do anything. Then you consciously say, hey, yeah, this is also not working. Let me go to traditional Vedanta. Right? So that means these are all, it's an outcome of the choices that you have made. Otherwise, Ishvara will become a sadist. If you go wrong in one thing, the implications are so huge, right? Ishvara, for no reason of yours, no responsibility of yours, somehow gets pleasure in making you a criminal. gets a pleasure in making you a terrorist, and this is where comes this conclusion that there is some evil force who's making me do all this mess through the laws. Do you understand how the whole teaching, you make one mistake, the implications are so large. It's not some technical thing, oh, is there free will or not. The implications, you don't know what it means.
In fact, what,
right?
just to go in this direction.
And the second thing, just Surya, 1 second. And the other thing is, these are the choices that, at every level you had a choice. The unseen result cannot be accrued without at one point collapsing the choices. In fact, if you say that there is no choice, the whole world is mechanical, there is no karma in the first place, the whole thing breaks down. Do you understand that? The karma is the result is an outcome of choice. Right? And this is why a criminal is a criminal, you can't blame Ishvara for it. It's the wrong choice made, and that person is given the capacity to what? Change also. So Ishvara is not some guiding the person who is like with a whip making you go through life. Please don't view Ishvara like that. Ishvara is in form of possibilities. It creates the universe, creates possibilities, it has keys, and you have to use your intelligence to what? What? Use it. Okay? There is a beautiful verse in the Gita. Uddharet Atmana Atmanam. Lord Krishna is telling Arjuna. He doesn't say, you leave everything to me and I'll take care. Anyway, who are you? I'm taking. He says, you take the initiative. Uddharet. What? Lift yourself. Right? How? By yourself. Lift yourself by yourself. So that means, I can give you knowledge, but you have to take what? The initiative to change yourself. Right? So that means that is all human. That's why the minute you use your faculty of choice to come here, the Upanishads also say the whole trajectory of your life undergoes a huge change. Because until then, you are kind of little bit, I love the way Turiya explained it, because she kind of said that, yeah, until you don't take the initiative, large part of you is governed by the heaviness of the past causes, right? Sometimes.
Mechanical,
Mechanical,
reactive.
exactly.
Okay.
Right?
Condition.
Then, at one point, you can free yourself from it by taking initiatives. Right? So that means, suppose you have come to Vedanta and a real teacher who really, your whole trajectory of life can change completely. And this is why it's all these small. Even after coming to Vedanta, you can just say, oh, it's all Ishvara, and you don't take any initiative for your personal growth, you'll remain the same dumb person as ever. Really. Consciousness doesn't move, Hey, that's not Vedanta. That's a complete illusion of the mind. It's an escaping mind. The whole teaching is about, hey, how are you going to get this knowledge what unless you prepare yourself? The whole preparation is based on what? The teacher teaches you certain ways. The karma yoga, emotional maturity, self-image. And who has to take the initiative? You have to take the initiative. Begin to take responsibility for your life, really. Otherwise, Vedanta becomes a tool for escapism. Ishvara has done it. Ishvara has made me like this. What is this? As though Ishvara is like, some person who has made you like this. Ishvara, as I told you, all knowledge, all power. You can't give any attribute of doership to Ishvara. Right? And everything Ishvara doesn't mean everything, and everything is governed by cause and effect, doesn't mean that everything is equal in this world. We make distinction between a cow birth and what? A human birth, and we distinguish these two by saying what? In human birth, you are given what? More what? The advanced mind. What are the distinguishing factors? And a free will, right, which the cow bird doesn't enjoy. The cow cannot come and tell you, hey, please don't slaughter me. It hurts. But you have a choice. Don't forget, when somebody slaps you as an adult, to say, stop it. You have a choice.
We saw that in Maya there is the power of feeling and the power of projecting.
There is no feeling there. Feeling.
Feeling.
Oh, feeling.
Avarana Shakti.
Yes, Avarana Shakti.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we saw that the subtle body is born out of ignorance.
Yes.
There is the feeling power in Maya.
Yes.
So for a long time, in past lives, etc., I didn't experience this faculty of choice in a way because I was acting mechanical, because the feeling power was very strong.
But you know,
or can I? Is that? I'm just trying to kind of reconcile the two standpoints, because in a way you can think now, okay, everyone has free will at every point in their life or in past lives, but so why didn't I go to Vedanta earlier?
Yeah.
So there is a factor of grace or whatever that is involved, that at some point you go to the Vedanta class where in the past you didn't. So can you say something more about this mechanism?
How do you know you didn't go?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a question.
Also, you know, actually it's interesting because Swamiji used to say that for you to come to me, he used to say, all of us, not only me, right, all of us, you must have started long ago, because you don't get an opportunity to listen to somebody like this. Right? And you had people who came to listen to him and said, Swamiji is telling stories, let me go to some other teacher. Right? So that means that all this is your free will. Okay. Even when you're given the possibility, there is no guarantee that you will take it. And people stayed with Swamiji and they still continue today, I'm consciousness, why should I, everything is mithya, and they are still emotionally like kids. This is a fact. Okay?
Well, the free will is capable of collapsing possibilities, but it's not capable of changing this cause and effect.
Excellent, excellent, excellent.
So
Very good.
That's the point, I think.
Yes, it's not the free will. That's a very nice way to put it, Clementina. Very intelligent way of putting it. It's not your free will is not capable of changing this cause and effect relationship. Very good. Because this is Ishvara's Srishti. But within this cause and effect relationship, as Clementina said, especially in a human birth, which is unlike a cow birth, it is capable of collapsing possibilities. So the situations arise, the possibilities are there, several different possibilities are there, and then what? You can collapse one of them, and that will then decide what effect is going to accrue. And this is why, please look at this, we make a distinction between a cow birth and a human birth. In cow birth, there is no karma accrued. Why is there no karma accrued? Because you don't have free will, so you can't be liable. Right? Lion is not liable for being carnivore because it doesn't enjoy the free will. right? So this is why the lion doesn't go to jail, lion doesn't accrue even karma, there is no unseen result for lion. But a human being is given free will, right? So human being with this faculty of choice and the possibilities, depending upon what you collapse, you are accrued. Karma is only for human and equivalent birth. Everything is Ishvara doesn't mean everything is the same. The laws are everywhere doesn't mean that everybody has this given the same capacity and same potential to work with the laws. Right? So that means there are differences within Ishvara. Ishvara is not one uniform entity where everything is distributed equally. Do you understand? So you can't give an argument everything is Ishvara and then there are laws, therefore everybody is equally subject to laws with absolutely no free will and no faculty of choice. This birth is considered a unique birth because here you have faculty of choice. And in fact, all these different karmas that you have accumulated are over human or equivalent birth, and not in other births like cow or even devas, because they are mostly bhoktas.
And that's why it is called free will, not limitless will.
Exactly. Right. Very good. Studia.
Very briefly.
Yes.
I like what Clementina said. Let's apply what she said to what we saw today in meditation. What we saw today in meditation, the past and all the series of cause and effect, all these events which have taken place and which have led you to be now who you are, okay? You cannot change that anymore, okay? But you can make the choice to revisit this past because you are now aware that there are some, let's say, tendencies, some ways of behaving or feeling which are mechanical, which is like binding you, which is making you, let's say, sad and so on, repetitively. So you can make the choice now by using your free will, not to change the past, but you make the choice to look at it differently and seeing the order of Ishvara. This is given to you. Now, more generally, when all this discussion was taking place, as a professor, what I used to do in my classes, okay, typically what I would do, I would say, okay guys, let's summarize the whole thing. Let's assume that human being has no free will. Let's assume. Neema has touched upon this logic. Now list for me all the consequences of holding this position. Okay? So we don't have time to do it now. Please do it. Maybe in satsang we can build a list like that. Okay? And now take all what Vedanta is saying. What is Vedanta saying? You have made choices to come here. You make choices to initiate your growth. You make choices like to bring another level and change your perspective about things. You are, as a karta, as a doer, let's say, initiating some punya and papa, which will help you further. You make the choice to make some prayers. You make the choice to do meditation. So take both lists and see what seems reasonable and tenable. And even if it's not logically, hey, would you like to live a life which is like, as Neema said, anyway, no responsibility. You have nothing to do. Just let yourself float in this determined world. Is this the life we would like to live? Or a life with responsibility, going towards more freedom, towards more clarity, and ultimately freeing you from this sense of inadequacy and incompleteness? What is it? So typically, do it really. Please do it for yourself, and then this question of free will not come again in your life. Otherwise, it will always come. So do it right. Please write and just look at these two things. And as Neema said, you will really become aware that all the arguments that you see, the consequences of holding that there is no free will, okay, you will see that all this finally, it's like is going against the whole very teaching and the whole, let's say, reason for which we are here. Okay? So that is big. Okay? It's huge. It's huge. You cannot imagine how huge it is. So when you are beginning to be convinced about that, it's okay. Now over. Free will, it will come and come and come. We are used to this question. So I used to say it's always somebody will ask. And it's very good because it's a very important question to visit. But please, once for all, do this exercise for yourself. And try to... Okay? So please do that. Huh? Homework for today for satsang. Build the list.
Okay? And we talked about during the breakfast. Imagine you're an inmate and you have to stay there for a life sentence. As long as you, for the rest of your life, you're an inmate, so this is like totally determined.
Yes.
And the only thing you can really, really decide yourself is how you cope with the situation.
Yes.
If you really understand that you're responsible for like a certain kind of action, and now you're in the prison and you accept it, it's a totally different situation to blame others, to blame Ishvara, or just to pretend there's no free will because it's determined and all that stuff.
Exactly. And see, if it was predetermined by somebody, then there would not be this cause also. Please understand.
Yeah.
This cause exists because you made a free
There's no
choice.
universe.
Right? So you can't say, there I made a choice and now I don't have. This came to you because you made a choice. This, even the past, Christoph, your argument that, oh, I was governed by unconscious, so I didn't use my free will, is not true.
No, I was asking the question.
Free will you had in every life. Right? But because of the lack of wisdom, right, you were not able to use it responsibly.
Yeah, that's what I was...
That's what. So that means you always had free will.
Yeah, sure.
Right? The only thing is that now we are learning how to use it.
Yeah. That's what I meant, that I used to feel, it's just the terms are dangerous, but I used to live a mechanical life governed by my unconscious, and now I have the faculty of choice. But I always had it, okay, I'll take that into account, but I didn't use it wisely. So that's
or it was partially
in fact, you always used it.
But not
you
wisely.
always made choices, but not wisely. See, don't say I was not able to use it. It's not true. Because you're constantly making choices, right? Even a thief has to make a choice. Tonight, I'm going to what? Go and rob this person. That's what, it's a plan, it's a choice, it's a then, he has to make a plan and then he actually has to go there.
And the fact that he
so
feels
that
guilty?
means, the very fact that he is feeling guilty after that shows that the universe is giving him a feedback, hey, this is not a very good choice that you have made, right? And it creates fear. And this is a mechanism through which the universe, Ishvara, talks to you and gives you a feedback about the nature of choice that you have made. Do you understand? Absolutely. So that means it's not like before we were governed by the unconscious and we didn't use our faculty of choice. It actually means slightly different. We always had faculty of choice. We didn't know how to use it wisely, and now we are beginning to learn because we have not used it wisely. It has brought pain. And we will not free ourselves from the pain until we learn to use it wisely.
Can you say that Maya is then choice? Well, choice is the potential to do this or that.
Exactly.
And Maya is then active in this
Absolutely.
point.
Absolutely. But you know, Sterling, what you have to understand is, yes, potentialities are there, but depending upon the body that you assume, right, the capacity to intervene changes. Everything is Ishvara and everything is laws doesn't mean each of these species have the equal choices. Do you understand? This is why Vedanta also distinguishes between Manushya and equivalent human and equivalent birth, where you are given this faculty of choice. And only in those births, if you remember, right? You accumulate karma, seen result and unseen result. Bring things together, otherwise what will happen? You only work from your own intellectual, God knows, some pseudo-intellectual framework, and you don't begin to see, as Surya very rightly said, everything that is here in this teaching is all about what kind of choice you are going to make. Right? In Arjuna's classic question, Lord Krishna doesn't say, Arjuna, don't worry about what to do, I have decided everything for you. He goes in length talking about samanya dharma, swadharma, emotional loads that we carry. He goes as being sattvic. This is all in length so that it gives you a certain framework to lift yourself out of this kind of, the poor choice of a poor use of free will to a evolved use of free will. The whole thing is about that. And by doing so, you make yourself prepared for knowledge. You see that?
Absolutely.
So, because when I was listening, I had kind of a problem. If I see someone who is very depressed,
yes,
and doesn't get out of it,
yes,
then I had the feeling I have to say, oh, you have the free will. And so with your explanation, if I understand, it's more like, then I can see maybe the person doesn't see right now that he has it. And that gives the compassion of, okay, but that's
wonderful.
okay with me.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Very good. This is
all
why
about,
I keep telling you, right, who are we to judge anybody,
Yeah.
right? Who are you to tell, who are you to go and start giving lectures based on Vedanta, right? I mean, just behave normally. If you can help that person a little bit, first thing is understand the person, right? First understand the person, empathize with the person, have compassionate, and then you can use your free will to say, hey, what can I do, that little thing that may help the person to, come out of it slightly. You see what I mean? And the last thing that one thing you can always do, and that is to pray for the other person. Really. It was beautiful. Swamiji used to say, I want to tell you, see, these things are very important. These subtleties are, the whole growth means you have to initiate certain subtleties, certain attitudes, certain behaviors. They will not come automatically. So he used to say that people all the time come and ask me for help, right? So now what he says, that generally what happens is, suppose you are inundated with people who come and ask you for help. How is a normal mind? Oh God, one more person, right? This is a normal mind. It's like, somebody wants to get married, somebody wants to start a business, somebody wants, their children to be admitted to some school, and all of them go to Swamiji. Now Swamiji is not he doesn't have a magic wand with which he can just fulfill all your wants and all your needs and give you what you want, right? So he cannot, see, if somebody comes to you and they come with what? A lot of
desires?
No, they come with a lot of expectations of what he can do to their life, right? They come to him. Why they didn't go anywhere and they went to him? Because they thought that he can make a difference. So what happens is, he says, a natural tendency of the mind is, hey, I'm a Vedanta teacher. I'm not here to solve all these artha kama problems. You can say all these funny things, right? He says the person has taken so much trouble to come to me out of all the other people, instead of just being lazy and say, okay, it's all Ishvara, what can I do? It's all cause and effect, what can I do? He says, what can I do? He was just amazing. He says, think about what you can do. And the number of students that he had around the world, he always, many times he wrote to me, and this is the truth. He wrote to me because I used to work with the UN. Oh, this person wants a job with the UN. Can you please help? Right? So he did that. He says, okay, we don't know whether I'm able to help or not, but he did what he had. Exactly, try. And he always did that. He always found what he could do. Sometimes he himself, like he himself can't follow up on anything. So he will call one person and say, hey, can you look after this and little bit follow up what can be done? This is what means if you are constantly looking for solutions. You don't take people for granted. You don't take their heart for granted. This is human. This is being human. It's beautiful. Then he said, sometimes people come to me with terminal illness. I can't do anything about it. He says, I can't do anything else, but I never not do anything. At least I pray. There's one thing I can always do. This is what we call wise use of free will. This is why Vedanta is not some mechanical, some nonsense. It is about human being, human heart, developing your attitudes, developing your, your whole vision and your behaviors, and you have to take initiative for that. The teacher can give you knowledge, the teacher can give you frameworks, the teacher can give you certain understanding of things, but ultimately it's you who takes the initiative. And the laws are designed in a way that if you are lazy and you don't want to take the initiative, that also will keep you where you are. And you can listen to Vedanta for janmas and you will still remain the same person. Because you don't take enough initiatives. Uddharet atmana atmanam. Lift yourself by yourself. Till the time that the knowledge takes place. Don't pretend that our consciousness is everything, Ishvara is all laws and Ishvara is everything, so I'm just a puppet. Yeah? Okay. 10:30. The class time is over. These are very important questions because if you're stuck in these, see, I'm not here to convince all of you. You still have your free will. You still have your. You need to see what makes sense to you. But the thing is that just don't harm yourself in the name of some intellectual arguments. This is a very common problem with Vedanta.
One question. Okay, so more or less clear, I guess, before knowledge, so to say. But after knowledge, would it be correct to say that you still have free will, but just your free will is based on a very wise position. Yes. Therefore, it's so to say like Ishvara is sort of there.
So you want to know the end result?
Yeah.
You're wonderful thing.
It's all about the end result.
Was absolutely true, right? Because human birth means that you have come with free will. Just because knowledge has taken place, your mind is not going to be stopping to have free will, right? Your mind is what it is, right? It's programmed to have free will. The only thing that happens is that, it's become very evolved and it's guided by certain very noble goals and also, exactly. And also, many things, Ishvara actually can use your free will and get so many things done through. That's why one can continue to engage in the world and make so much difference, right? It's not like you don't have free will even after knowledge. It continues.
That's one point. Ishvara can use your free will.
Yeah, so that means that the laws allow, suppose there is a parampara of teaching, right? The teaching has to continue. So that means now, as a wise person, what happens is my free will, right? I say, okay, now it's not like now I have to go and sit in the mountain. Now, the one wise person may use, let me rephrase it, to go to the mountain and sit. Is it okay? Yes. Perfect. It's okay. Please don't call him lazy, right? Because he is using his free will to just be in the mountain, sit in one place. That's wonderful. The other wise person can use one's free will to continue this teaching tradition and teach. both of them are using their free will, can you say one is better than the other? No.
Is that according to your Swadharma? You could
So,
say? Does that
see,
interfere?
Swadharma also, see, when you use these words, there is no such thing which is what we call Swadharma. Right? If you really think about what Swadharma means, right? Different situations come, and if you are able to detect what is appropriate in this given situation, then you are doing your Swadharma. That's all. Right? So what decides whether you are doing your Swadharma or not is what? How do you respond to situations? Either your responses are appropriate and what is called for, or it is not appropriate. Right? So you can't say I'm doing my Swadharma, because sometimes you can be saying I'm doing my Swadharma and your assessment is not accurate and you're doing something which is not to be done. See, what Lord Arjuna thought his Swadharma was what? Not to fight, because he thought that he would what? Kill so many, cause so much destruction. You see what I mean? But Lord Krishna is saying, hey, actually your Swadharma is not really this. Coming from a princely family and being such a leader, and there is this king who is highly corrupt and he has a lot of power, here your duty, change the assessment of the situation. You see, when you assess the situation differently, your choices become different. Right? So that means you can't say before Arjuna was not doing Swadharma and now he is doing Swadharma. What it means is, initially what he thought which was appropriate at that given point in time was little different from what was really called for in the situation. You see what I mean? So Swadharma, nobody does Swadharma. Right? We respond to situations. If that response is in keeping with what is called for, it is called, you're doing your duties. So that means it is your Swadharma. You're doing your Swadharma well. If it is not in keeping with what is called for in the situation because of misguided thinking, then even if you want to do your Swadharma, you're not doing it. Do you see that?
Sure.
Yeah.
So it's about using wisely the free will.
Exactly. Again it comes to wise use of free will. All the time, everywhere it is only mention of wise free will.
And it also, what clearly means when you yesterday talked about the nature of Vishvara, which is in constant flux.
Excellent.
And that in turn that he will not, I don't know, he will not know every outcome, but only that will, according to our free will, he changed it. The consequences change. So.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Do you understand what he's saying? Yeah. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah. If you, first of all, there is no entity called uncle called Ishvara. But suppose you go to him, right, and ask him, what is the world going to look like 100 years from now? He will say, I don't know. Why? Oh, you are all knowledge and all power, and you mean to say you don't know? What he says is what? I have set up this field, I have set up the laws. Then what is going to happen 100 years from now will decide upon how each one will use their free will. Right? As what the laws will give the outcome. So the outcome will depend upon the choices that you make. So even I don't know what the world is going to look like. That doesn't make him not all knowledge and all power.
But if he knew he would be limited.
Exactly.
Because there's always something else.
Exactly. That's why this question, right? This guy asked me this question, your Ishvara is going to become obsolete. Why? Because there is artificial intelligence. So now human beings can also do what Ishvara was supposed to do. So Ishvara is outdated. These are the problems. If you take Ishvara as a fixed entity, you'll get into a fix. When you engage with some intelligent people.
And the beauty is, you don't know what will be tomorrow. But you get up in the morning and you're just really looking forward because it's so beautiful, because you don't know. Ishvara also also doesn't know.
Yeah, because it's true. Ishvara doesn't know how you are going to use your free will next minute. It's true, because it's your choice, which you are given power to collapse. Ishvara has not already collapsed it for you. Collapse means that among the possibilities, you take one possibility and you do something that is called collapsing the possibility, converting that possibility into actuality. Into an action.
Could you also say but it's still not outside of the potential?
Exactly. It's still not outside the potential of Ishvara. You can't do something which is not within the human potential. Absolutely. So that means that is what one will do. So it's still within Ishvara. Right?
But the one wise person going to the mountain,
yes,
you were telling, and the other wise person doing other things.
Yes.
So what is the logic somehow is free will?
See, both free will and little bit of prarabdha, both. But both, it's not just one, right? So that means some people come with an inclination of just, maybe just contemplative mind and, they don't want to much engage. Or sometimes they don't even have very good skills of communication or whatever, right? And some people may come with some, certain abilities and certain skills. But at the same time, each one still has a little bit of a free will, right? And you can use, and it's not like one is right, one is wrong. It's fine, right? Because now you know the knowledge, how you want to spend rest of your life is also a little bit your decision. It's okay.
And that inclination that you just mentioned?
Inclination.
Does that have a technical term in Vedanta?
Yeah, the inclination, okay, very good. Now, that will come to what you guys are getting to, and that is vasanas. The favorite topic among all of you. So, good. Christoph, at least you have learned to ask it very intelligently.
I've become very cautious.
Very good.
I'm using my free will.
These are much more subtle, right? I mean, you're just kind of using what I'm saying and my words to kind of ask one more question, right? This is wonderful. I like this, right? But I will answer after the break.
Maybe to sum up, so when you say kind of, because if Ishvara is doing something to this person, so would that mean that kind of the situations that the person gets into are sort of the ones that were helpful, and then that person can use their wisdom in those situations, and therefore that's kind of Ishvara using you.
Yeah, that is also, because it's true.
A good teacher
Timur,
gets
what you
into
are
good
saying
teaching
is,
situation, so to say, students somehow,
See, Timur, what you are saying is right, because otherwise what will happen, it's a common parlance, it's true. If you can't take it literally, it's true. Because if you take it literally, Ishvara again becomes one person who is then telling you to do this, right? The situations arise and what is in front of you, and then you kind of naturally play your role, right? So that is how it works. It doesn't work is like Ishvara is some uncle who tells you, okay, now your job is to teach and I'm going to use you for teaching. It's not. Otherwise Ishvara will become a doer, Ishvara, then all kinds of problems will arise. It's correct.
It's again the natural function of the laws. So you're a good
the
teacher,
function,
and that's kind of useful, and then the students who want to know and they're ready to know.
Exactly, so then they all kind of come together. Exactly. Yeah, that's a good question. Purnamadam Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti